All right, joining me here today, a man that I've literally just met face to face in the last couple of minutes, but he's one of those people in the mountain bike world that you kind of feel like even though he's not a racer, but I feel like on the mechanic side, it was quite a high profile and former mechanic of Aaron Gwin's, John Hall. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. Yeah, stoked to be here. I've listened to quite a few of your episodes, so when we connected on Instagram, I was stoked to do it.
Oh man, color me shocked. I did not expect some of the people that that do listen now. And when you messaged, I was like, no shit, we've got to get you on here. So stoked to make it happen.
Heck yeah, dude. I always browse all the mountain bike podcasts. There's always something interesting, and I always love hearing all the stories. So
Yeah, we try not to take ourselves too seriously. I think that's our main part of the podcast here.
we're just riding bikes, anyways.
Exactly. You can't take things too seriously. But you've, I guess, retired from World Cup wrenching, I guess you could call it.
Yeah,
What, what are you up to currently?
yeah. It's funny. I never did like any retirement post or anything like that. I suppose I still could, but it'd be a couple of years after the fact. But I figured most people probably put the pieces together. So since then, 2023 was my last full season on the circuit. And if I remember right, that was also, I was still going to the races and still helping the team and stuff. I think that was the year Aaron was hurt, anyways and stuff. But we were still all scheduled to go, all the travel booked and everything. So I just kind of took on another role of like line spotter and guy up on the course, passing information to all the riders and stuff. And then in the beginning of 2024, so as soon as my contract with Aaron ended, I picked up with Intense Cycles full time. So they had kind of already offered me the position whenever I was ready. I guess what most people don't know is like towards the end, the last couple of years, it was kind of in my mind anyways. It was getting to be quite a lot, doing it for 10 years and not the longest one to ever do it, but 10 years was a pretty good stint and I was creeping up on that. And I thought 10 years would be a good solid number to end on. And had a lot of fun, a lot of success with Aaron. And he and I chatted about it quite a bit, actually, like that whole year and even probably the last couple of years, And so it wasn't a surprise to him either or anything like that. And ended all on good terms. Like him and I probably text almost every day still, send each other Instagram memes
Nice.
like anybody else. And I guess a year or two prior, Intense had like offered, they said, hey, just whenever you are done, like we'd love to have you on full time, let you know that you got a spot here when you are done and kind of end on your own terms and stuff. So I rolled straight into it. One contract ended, and then I jumped on as a full-time employee with Intense at the beginning of 2024. So we're just into the second year of that now. And I guess we don't really do job titles, but if we were to do one, there's one on my email signature that says technical director. But I kind of bounce around. I'm kind of a liaison between a lot of different, I guess, areas or departments, if you will. So main focus is R&D and product development with the engineering team and Jeff Stieber. And so that's kind of primary focus there. I just try to basically take all my knowledge and expertise over the years and I can kind of finally just unload it and download it. And Intense is super receptive to it. So they believe in it and they trust me and stuff. And it's nothing revolutionary. I just work hand in hand with the engineers. We try to make things mechanic friendly from my side, I guess. Make sure bolts are accessible.
Mechanics will thank you for that one.
Yeah. So it's like I feel like I'm a bit of an advocate on the inside. Somebody from the outside had made it to the inside and can advocate for all the mechanics out there. And with that, like I get to do, I'm not going to claim to be a professional bike tester or anything like that, but in that role, I do get to ride all the prototypes and give my feedback on it for what it's worth. And I'm not the only one. We have a solid group of riders, and the race team included, that put time in on our product and stuff before it ever fully comes to market.
That's pretty
And
cool
then,
that you get involved in that though, because I think a lot of the time it feels like some companies that's super disconnected, whereas like you've worked with a guy who is, one of the greatest downhill racers of all time. So I'm sure you've picked up a ton of stuff just from testing with him in the past as well, with Aaron, and things that you learned from those days.
for sure, and it's not just Aaron either. We've had Nico Malali. I've worked with him for
Yeah,
years on multiple programs. He's really good at all that. Um, we spend a lot of our off times at the races and stuff talking about things and different theories and thoughts and feelings and what stuff feels like and what we think would be best and stuff like that. But between, you know, excuse me, Aaron, Nico, Dakota Norton, and then we were partners with Fox Suspension for years and years and years. And I worked super closely with Jordy and learning from Jordy and even the team behind him and at Fox and stuff. And you learn from those guys and what their thoughts are. And even all the RockShox guys, even though we weren't with RockShox, it's like you'd go over there and you chat about something and everybody has their own opinion and ideas on stuff. And so I heard Jeff Stieber said something a while ago, and I can't remember where he picked it up, but it's just a little saying that I try to remind myself, and since I've heard it, and it's be a learn it all and not a know it all, and so I always keep an open mind to everything, to everybody's opinion, and stuff like that. And I might have a stronger feel on something that I have experience with, but if I don't have experience with something, I'm all ears. And I'd love to chat about it with anybody that'll sit down and listen, honestly, and get their opinion on it and stuff. And Dakota was really fun with that. He had some really spirited opinions, to put it lightly, on a lot of things, and a lot of it we wouldn't agree on, and then there were times where even I wouldn't agree with him on something, and then I'd see it in real world or see it in practice or see him put it into practice. And I would change my mind, and I'd be like, okay, maybe he is onto something. And I also learned more from that than a bunch of yes men around you. So
yeah. I mean,
and
Dakota with
so
his handlebars is a classic one. Not afraid to go against the grain, to go searching for a feel that he's looking for.
yep,
Like there's
yep.
not many people who, because I mean those bars look terrible. I'll just put it out there. They look
Oh,
so out of place, but they work for him and he's happy with them. And it's funny, you're starting to see handlebars start creeping up because
yeah.
he's, opened that whole
I'll
world up.
I'll be the first one to tell him, and I'll still tell him, and I agree with you. I hate them. They look
They look,
ridiculous. But to my point, like, it works for him, and he has a very logical reason as to why he does. He's not just doing it to go against the grain and to be different. He's one of the dudes who will grind his ass off behind the scenes where nobody sees, by himself, up in the woods, lap after lap after lap after lap, figuring this stuff out for his own. Um, because of the pushback that he gets. And he goes, well, if I'm not going to get any help trying to figure it out, I'm going to figure it out myself. And then he finds it, and he gets it, and he tries to get support for it. But when you listen to him break it down and talk about it, in a very candid manner, it makes sense why it works for him, and he has his reasons behind it. And so I always told him too, I said, hey man, I can sit here and disagree with you and have my own opinion till I'm blue in the face. But if you're putting that thing on the box, I don't care what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's,
Results at the end of the day are proving the point.
yep. And there's literally been people that have asked him if he wants to come back from outer space yet. And he just laughs, And so if it's working, it's working. But yeah, I've learned a ton from all the athletes that I've worked with and all the testing sessions that we've done with Fox and the engineers over there. And, all the engineers at all the different brands that we've worked with. I learned a ton at Specialized in my early years where I absolutely knew nothing. I learned to really just keep my mouth shut and listen as much as possible. And at that time, I was just kind of like, you tell me what to do and I'll do it. And then I just learned from there. But yeah, Brad Benedict over there and that whole crew, guy by the name of Chance came on board shortly after we were there, and he's still there to this day. And he had a big part in the Genie Shock that came out. And so I've learned I just try to learn from super high level dudes. I make sure that I'm not the smartest guy in the room, and kind of keep my mouth shut and learn where I can. And then put my own spin on it and apply it where I can, and bounce ideas off of other people and all that kind of stuff. So aside from all of that, I'll still jump in on all the marketing meetings at Intense and stuff like that, just from a technical perspective, just to make sure that geo charts are correct and the information that we're putting out is correct, and that type of stuff. And then
That's
also,
really important because some of that stuff gets so when you've got big businesses and you've got one marketing division over here, and like some of that stuff just gets lost sometimes. So that's super cool that you're
yeah,
involved in all that
we just
stuff
try
as
to keep it
well.
real cohesive, and simple, and it doesn't always have to be as extravagant sometimes as marketing people like to make it. But it's such a small team, kind of everywhere at Intense. So we're all connected by text and group chats and all this kind of stuff, and plenty of meetings during the week. So, and we really have an environment where you can speak up, and say your word. And if it wants to be heard, cool. And if it does, then even cooler. So that's really fun. And then I still get to be connected in racing as well with Joe Breeden and him running the IFR program. So I'm a bit of the liaison as well between the team and the brand. Not just myself, it's a group of us that are in contact with them at all times. So part of the reason why I was running a bit late today is we're working on getting one for a couple gearbox frames.
Oh,
So
nice.
um, Adam over at Precise Metalworks machined up some parts and got them overnighted to us, and Jeff got them all welded up, and I got all the heat treat hardware on them today and brought them home with me, and then drop them off at the heat treat first thing in the morning in LA tomorrow, and yeah, wait for those to get back, and then we'll get them shipped out to hopefully make it to the team by Leger next weekend. So that's another side of things that I do. And then, as if my plate wasn't full enough, I thought it'd be a great idea that we have a domestic North American race team
Yeah,
um, that I
absolutely.
that I got off the ground last year, and that was kind of like it was met with some hesitancy, but it was like, well, see how far you can get down the road with it, and we'll go from there. And so yeah, I got that off the ground very late at the end of last year, and anybody in industry that's been on a team or started a team knows that conversations with sponsors really start now, like July, August timeframe, to start talking about budgets for next year, and then really start to solidify things in like October, November timeframe.
It's
I
incredible
don't think
how
I said,
things always come together literally at the last minute, though. You know,
oh, geez, dude.
you can start it as early as you want, and you're still piecing bikes together 2 days before
Yep.
the race sometimes.
I don't think I sent my first email until like October, November of last year. And the
Yes,
amount of
that's pretty late.
responses that I got back that were like, dude, do you know what time it is? Like, what are you talking about? And then,
Tough time in the industry to be launching something straight off the
yep,
ground as well like that.
yep. But luckily, honestly, like I didn't really strike out. I kind of took an approach to that whole program of like, if I hit any speed bumps and this is going to be difficult in any way, like I'll pull the plug and we'll start next year. Start planning a little bit sooner. But oddly enough, everybody that reached out to and all the partners and sponsors, I mean, SRAM, RockShox, and Troy Lee Designs, and Intense was on board, and E13 came on board. Continental was stoked on it. Eric over at DD Components was pumped on it. I think he and I had like a 3-hour phone call when I reached out to him, and he was beyond stoked. And it all just came together so well, and I couldn't say no. And we got a rider roster that I couldn't say no to with Dante Silva and Nate Kitchen and Tegan Heap and Kai Burleson. And it's just like we had some A-list hitters and some up and coming juniors, and I was like, this is a perfect mix, and made it work. So it's been
I
awesome.
think Intense is such a rich racing heritage for a start. Like anyone in our generation, and you talk about Intense, it's like instantly you're thrown back to the M1 and like just the super strong racing heritage. And then the way that the US has been on the rise again with Clay's Pro Downhill Series and that sort of thing, like I'm not surprised that it came together and people were pumped to make it happen, because it just feels like Intense and US downhill racing is just like a match made in heaven that should it should be there. It feels wrong if it
Yep.
wasn't.
that's really kind of was like my driving force behind it. I was like, man, if anywhere, like we definitely need to be racing here and growing with this series. And um, I spoke to it just briefly on a previous podcast on Vital, and I truly believe in Clay's vision. He and I chat all the time on it, and it's honestly like the whole series. It's behind the scenes is so supportive amongst the teams and Clay as the organizer, and he's constantly, what can I do to help you guys? What can I help? And because it does help him to have the teams. It's beneficial for
Yeah,
the teams to be there, and he recognizes that, and so he's like, I want to make it as easy as possible for you guys to get here and be here and make it worth it for you. What can I do for you? And in turn, that makes all of us go, what can we do for you? What can we do for the series? How can we show up? How can we be better? And all that kind of stuff. So, man, I truly believe U.S. downhill it's back and it's on the rise again. And it's over the next period of time, who knows, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to be firing, and it's going
yeah,
to be big, and it's going to be the place to be. The prize money is there. It's as much, if not slightly more, to win one of these rounds than it is a World Cup.
yeah,
So it's like, dude, it's only going to keep growing, and all the brands are super behind it. Some of them are going, "Yep, we support it, and we're going to continue to support it and support it more as it grows." So starting off small and then growing with it, and that was kind of my vision too. I was like, we could wait a couple years and see where it goes, and if it gets to the point where we see it worth being there, then we'll jump in. That's kind of the logical take to it, and a lot of brands have done that as well. But I kind of took a different approach, and I was like, you know what, if I can jump in early and start the support from the beginning, and then grow with the series as the series grows, as the entries grow, and the sponsor dollars and the sponsors grow with it. It's like we'll just grow with that instead of coming in at a kind of a bigger price point later down the road, and it's going to cost a lot more to get in. Let's get in and grow with it early, and that was kind of the whole brand's approach to it. So stoked to
I
be a
think
part of it, to be honest.
the more people that have that mindset and do it as well, like it only benefits everyone if everyone is getting, some involvement. They're helping the series helping them. Like everything just elevates. But I mean, I've been on this for a bit. Like I caught up with Clay last last year, start of this year. We talked for like an hour, just not even on a podcast. We just talked about the series. We started chatting, and we were like, let's catch up, and just he was super keen because he knew that I was really passionate to talk about it and help
Yeah,
grow into other areas of in the media side. And yeah, we probably could have recorded it as a podcast, but we just sat there and chatted about the series and growing it and how it's going. And I mean, I'm super behind it. It's so cool to see, and it's great to see new venues coming through. And I mean, West Coast racing as well. Like I always love the West Coast stuff. Like
yeah,
I came in at the end of the Norba, when it was on the decline at that point. But I always loved my time in the US. Like racing there was so good. The
yeah,
people, the tracks, the venues, the travel, like it was all good. And the way that the World Cup series is going now, being at an even higher elite level, it's the only logical place for you know, everyone
yeah.
else to go. That makes
And
sense.
I'm I won't I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon of bashing the World Cup series and stuff like that. I think it does need to be elite level. I think
I
it
agree.
needs to be the cream of the crop. Um, but and again, like I hate comparing stuff to Moto, but with Moto they have MXGP, and then you have American Supercross and Motocross,
Yep.
and it's completely different. It's there's guys from here that try to go over there, and it's super difficult and it's super hard, and there's guys from there that come over here, and it's super difficult. Like I think Jorge Prado's like
Yeah.
looking like is a perfect example of it, dude, and he's struggling right now.
It's a massive struggle
Um,
this year for him.
yeah, and it's probably a culmination of things, but it's the same as World Cups. And I tell all the guys here too. I said, please aspire to go to World Cups. That's awesome. Like America needs to be represented on the World Cups, just know that it's different. The tracks are different. The dirt and the soil and the rocks are different, all the way down to like you're dealing with jet lag. The food is different. The air is different. It smells different. The hotels are different. The people are different. Like, and even the way I kind of noticed it, and I was thinking about this from the Unadilla Outdoor National and watching Prado, and they were talking about the track and, oh, it has GP similarities and this, that, and the other. And then I actually had a thought, and I was like, all the American riders, they ride different than Europeans. Not only are the tracks different and the soil and all that stuff, but they ride differently. Because they ride differently, a track burns in differently. The
Yeah,
ruts are different.
totally different.
The jumps are different. Like how they build them is different, and you have to adapt to all that as well. And it's the same thing with World Cups. Lines develop differently, jumps are different. It's like berms are different. The like everything is different. So I think a kind of a perfect scenario would be that there's just the two series. There's the World Cup series and there's the U.S. series. And there's going to be guys that are going to come over from Europe and learn to race over here, and vice versa. We're not going to stop sending Americans over there. But it is definitely more elite. You're going to have to really have your ducks in a row and be firing from the first lap. There's no easing into it. But it's also different here, like it's not as steep, and we'll get bigger tracks and steeper tracks as it develops for sure. But it's just different, and it's going to be two different things where guys will get to make a choice now, and I think that's the way it should be, instead of one being considered a feeder series or a lesser series or whatever. I think it's just going to be two different really good options for people to come over, and pretty soon, you'll be able to make like a decent living coming over and racing over here, and people will see that, and then it's just going to keep growing and growing.
Yeah, and I mean the World Cup series for the last, I mean, God knows how many years, it's basically been a European series. Like very rarely does it actually travel outside of Europe. So it is just like you say, it's that similarity of MXGP where that's just going to be the European series and they'll do their thing, and it can be a whole North American series, and
Yep.
it's
Yeah,
it's good.
I
There's
agree.
space for all of them, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, it was. I always loved watching all the Euros coming over to America, and every time it was, oh, how you doing? Oh, jet lag, and oh, this and hotel room that, and food this and food and this that and the other, and it's like you do realize we do this for every other round. Like you guys have a 2 hour drive or a 2 hour flight to every single round from your house. Like we're flying 11 to 13 hours every single race to come over there. Like it's nuts. So I always got a good laugh
Yeah,
out of that.
that was always that used to be my thing a lot. I'd spend most of my time in the US, and then I'd be going to race World Cups in Europe or whatever, and it was just like time zones were all over the place, and then there'd be, I don't know, at that point there wasn't a lot of Americans going and racing World Cups, but there would always be this kind of pushback of like, oh, but it's so hard to get over there, and it's like, dude, I've come to the US from 12, 13 hours away, and it's like I'm
Yeah.
making it over there, so come on, like we can
Yeah.
all get over there. But no, it's
Yeah.
cool. It's good racing, and it's been really awesome to see the US back. And I mean, just like you guys getting in on the series, there's so many American based brands, Trek, Santa Cruz, Intense. I mean, I'm going to miss a ton. Yeti,
Oh yeah.
there's a ton of them, along with all the component manufacturers and that. And I'm like, these brands, if they all get in behind supporting the US series as well, it will be another World Cup. So
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I think it's but it just takes a little bit of time. And
mm,
I think that's something Clay is really, really good at is the incremental growth.
yeah,
There's no doubt that he's had opportunities to grow it bigger and faster, and he's just not. He's going, no, I will not sacrifice the quality of product that I can deliver per event for making it bigger and making it bigger faster, and so he's going, I'm gonna try to add one round a year until I can get it to a point where it's still manageable. I'm not going
yeah,
to say it's going to be 14 rounds, and because he's like, I can't do that right now.
yeah.
it has to grow like step by step, year over year over year. And I think if everybody takes that approach, even all the way down to the teams, and how they approach each year, and approach their sponsors and the supporters of the teams and stuff like that, it's much easier. It's going to be that's kind of going back to the point of like I wanted to grow with the series and get the team off the ground this year and just get it established, even if it was just a product deal, and then start building a budget year over year over year until you get to a point where it makes sense. And it's a lot easier to build and grow with sponsors each year in that fashion, rather than go, I'm going to wait 3 years and see if it's worth it or not. And 3 years down the road, it's massive. And to go do it, you got to go get this massive budget. And then you're reaching out to sponsors for the first time going, I need this much, and this much to all these sponsors. And they're going, holy crap. Like, who do you have? What are you doing? Like, what are we getting out of this? But if we can grow with them and just kind of like take little bites, then pretty soon your plate's full.
Put those building blocks in place, because then you've got something year on year to come back as well. And like, this is the growth we've seen. And
yep. And it's just sustainable too. You're not going to get the bubble that pops. So just being smart about it. And I think Clay's doing a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's cool that you guys are super involved with it too. Let's jump back in the time machine a bit and go back to where did riding bikes start for you? Go back to the early days.
I always really kind of forget. So I grew up in South Dakota, Midwest, flyover state, really.
Is that Jesus? What's the Sturgis? Sturgis in South Dakota. Yep. I've been
exactly.
Went to Sturgis one year. Stopped and saw the presidents in the mountain.
Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore.
Yep.
Yeah, we did the full South Dakota trip. We drove from Mont Saint Anne, I think, to Whistler, or somewhere on the east coast to Whistler. It was a massive journey.
Yeah, that's a big drive. So that's right where I grew up. I grew up in Spearfish, South Dakota, in the Black Hills. Sturgis is down the road, 30, 40 miles, something like that. So, grew up around the Sturgis Rally. Wasn't allowed to go until I was old enough. Back in those days, it was not what it is now. It was a lot of motorcycle gangs and a lot of hooligans and craziness around there. And I don't think I was allowed to even go by myself or with friends until I was 15 or 16 or something like that. And it was a strict rule. My dad said you have to be out of there by 9 o'clock. And that was true. It was literally looked down and it was 9 o'clock and we said, let's get out of here. And right then it was like chaos broke out right there. It's called Lozelle, the famous street's called Lozelle Street. And that's where like the big photos taken every year. We can just see thousands of bikes going down the street and parked. And it's wild. It was the Wild West. There were no rules then. And it still gets rowdy now, but not like it did. But that's where I grew up. But not a lot of bike stuff around there. I was just always kind of the kid who I never really gelled with team sports. I did them. I played. I think I remember playing soccer when I was younger, and I hated it because nobody cared about it as much as I did, and it just felt like I was trying to do all the work, and kids were running around chasing butterflies. Tried baseball, just a little too slow for me. Got real bored with it. I wrestled for quite a while, like started real young all the way up through middle school. And then I really enjoyed that because it was an individual sport. Like if you sucked, that was on you. If you got beat, your fault, nobody else's. Played a little bit of football up through middle school as well. And that's kind of right around when I found bikes. I had a couple friends who had BMX bikes, and I just thought they were the coolest thing ever. And I wanted one and begged my mom for one. And I got a Dyno D-Air from a used Dyno D-Air from a bike shop with mag wheels and everything on it, and thought I was super cool. Had a gyro so I could do tail whips or try.
Sick.
and And then I remember I got linked up with one of my other best friends who got into bikes as well, and him and I were riding around town, and we ran into a group of riders of older guys that were riding around, and they said, "Come ride with us." And those guys were actually riding dirt jumps and street. They'd ride dirt jumps all day and then street at night, and we just got linked in with them. And so I just started BMX, riding dirt jumps and street during the night when it cooled off, and go learn feeble grinds on a concrete ledge and go around all the schools and the ditches and all that kind of stuff. And then a couple of those guys were racing, and so then I got into racing, got a race bike and worked for that. And one of them worked at a local bike shop, so I was always hanging out there, watching him. I would just watch him work on bikes literally from school got out till they closed every day. He would yell at me. He'd be like, "Dude, go ride. What are you doing hanging out here?"
Yeah.
But I would just hang out at the bike shop, and then when they would close, we'd go ride. We'd go hit the dirt jumps for a little bit until it got dark, and then we'd go ride street. And so it was just BMX was life. I was everything: dirt jumps, street racing, um, and then started racing some nationals and stuff. Traveling, it wasn't advantageous for us to do like a full national circuit or anything like that. So and especially where we were, they were all so far away. So we'd hit the close ones, which was like typically Salt Lake, the Minnesota National, Rockford, Illinois, and then big one would be like DeSoto, Texas, and then the Grands every year. So it was usually like 3, maybe 4 nationals a year just to go race faster guys and stuff. Wasn't a whole lot of competition in South Dakota, so I thought I was pretty good because I would just win everything. And then
Big fish in a small pond.
yeah, I specifically remember the moment. I kind of grew up in like the Bubba Harris era there, and I don't remember what national it was. I think it was Salt Lake, maybe World Champs at Salt Lake. I made it there one year, and I think I was in a moto with Bubba Harris, and just we were both on each side of the air ram, and I remember going like, "Holy crap, I'm on the gate with Bubba Harris. This is crazy." And I don't have the best snap on the gate, but not bad either. So I thought, and when I watched Bubba Harris snap that thing and put about 2 bike lengths into me before we got to the bottom of the hill, I was like, whoa, this is next level. But I did that until I think I raced till I was like 16, 17 expert. And around then it was still like next step was A pro. And I'm like, we're not going pro or anything. So kind of quit right around that age. And then we actually got in a car accident on the way to the Grands with my buddies who we were riding with. And one of them broke his neck in the accident and had to have a fusion, and wasn't because of the position bikes, BMX bikes put him in. Doc said like, no more BMX bikes. And that's when mountain bikes came around for me. So he got a mountain bike, Kona Stab Primo or something like that, downhill bike, first one I'd ever seen. And I think he actually had an Intense by then. It would have been 04, 05, somewhere. No, 02 or 03 actually. Probably would have been like the M3 or M6 maybe for him. I can't remember, but he got one of those too. And I ended up getting a Demo 8 just before I graduated high school, and started riding downhill. We were just like, basically looking back now, it's free ride. Like we were just going up in the hills, building trails and drops and stuff and riding that stuff. And then I graduated high school and I joined the Marine Corps. So I went in the military and kind of put everything on hold for that. So
I could imagine that would take up a lot of time.
Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of time to go riding for that. So everything kind of got put in storage and life put on hold while I went and did that. And when I got out, I was stationed in Camp Pendleton in California. And I said, well, I was like, dude, I got this old mountain bike. I was like, and there was race series around, and I ended up getting a job at a bike shop because I didn't know what to do. And I was like, oh, I know how to work on bikes. Like, we'll go do that for a little while.
Is this like Fontana Winter Series type racing?
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
I was living in Hemet, California. Those of you who know that place, it's sketchy. And working at a bike shop there, and a buddy of mine, Stephen Bafis, was working there, and he was actually a pro dirt jumper at one point for Diamondback. And he was living with Mike Metzger at the time. And then he was like, dude, let's go race this Fontana race. Like, let's go check it out. And so we started doing that. And me, I was like, oh, dude, I was 17, expert BMX kid, raced pretty well, used to race Bubba Harris. Like, I'll sign up for expert class, no problem, should
Yeah.
be doing fine. And just got waxed. I was
What
like,
what what kind of year was this that you were kicking off in
oh,
there?
see here, probably like 2010,
Yeah.
11, right in there, Fontana series. So,
Yeah.
um, didn't even know who Aaron Gwin was at the time, and that's probably right around the time where he was on Trek, most likely
Yeah.
End of Yeti,
Yeah.
beginning of Trek, like time
20,
frame.
2010 was Yeti, and I think 11 was Trek.
Yep. So, and then from there, I just wanted more, so I found a different bike shop in Temecula that was a bit nicer. Ended up moving there, and coincidentally moved about 6 or 7 houses down from Rich Houseman,
Oh yeah,
and
big
he had
house.
come into the shop, and I recognized him, but I didn't. He'd come in with an intent and needed some help, and I just helped him out with something. I don't even remember what it was. And he came back a couple more times, brought his brother Gary Houseman. He came in with the bike and helped them out. And then come to find out, he was building a development team with Trek and Aaron at the time. Needed a mechanic, so I'd get off work and then I'd just go up to Rich's house and spend time working on the team bikes. And that was like John Buckle, Logan Mullally was on
Yeah,
the team, Nico's
I
brother.
was trying to think back to that kind of era and who would have been on there, but yeah,
Yep,
Logan makes sense.
yep. Logan was on there. John Buckle, Charlie Harrison, and
Yeah,
Jason Schroeder, and who's at Vital now,
yeah.
and Shane Leslie.
Oh,
And
I remember Shane Leslie too.
yep. And so I was Charlie's first mechanic on that team, and it just grew from there. Just one thing after the next. I would help build bikes, and then I got asked to go to Sea Otter and help them out. Um, and then Aaron's Specialized deal came up, and Rich filled me in on that as it all was happening. Nobody else knew what was going on, but all the drama behind that deal, Rich was helping Aaron out with and everything, and I was getting filled in on that, and I was like, holy crap, this is people are going to freak out when they hear this stuff.
Yeah, because that was kind of getting out of a contract, wasn't it, to move over and basically set his own deal up, really.
Yeah, and I don't know all the inner workings of that
Yeah,
deal and kind of how it all came about, but it was some along the lines of it was a letter of intent that got signed on a contract, and Specialized
yeah,
kind of came in at the 11th hour and threw him an offer he couldn't receive or couldn't turn down, and ended up getting out of the track contract and signed the Specialized one. And he had Sam Hill's mechanic JC
yeah.
um, that first year, and then the development team switched to Specialized as well. And so I was on board for that whole deal and helping those kids out. And then after Aaron's first year at Specialized, I think Specialized wanted to bring the program back in house. And so Sean Heimdall, I think, owned the team before, and that whole program kind of was on its way out. And it was like Aaron, Troy, and Mitch were kind of left there, and Specialized didn't really have a team, but contracts in place. And Rich Houseman kind of facilitated that whole deal too. So he brought his brother-in-law Eric Carter in as a
Oh
team
yeah,
manager. Eric's
that's right. I
old,
forgot. I
um,
forgot EC was in there.
yep, Eric's
Man,
old mechanic, John Canepa, sniper.
yeah,
He came in as a mechanic, and then that's really when I met Aaron and was hanging out with him a bit more. Was that first year he's on Specialized, and kind of towards the end of that season, first season, and then it was the following year, preseason, and they were building this team behind the scene. I didn't know anything about it at the time or what was happening, and Aaron was going to Fontana, doing his thing, doing all the preseason stuff. And Rich had asked me to come out to Fontana and help him with the kids on the development team, and then Aaron as well. And then Aaron asked me to go to a bootleg race with him and Charlie to help him out. And I had to beg, borrow, and steal from my boss to let me go because it was 2 weekends off from a bike shop in a row, which is unheard of.
yeah.
And so I went to bootleg with him. And while I was out there, Rich sent me a text and was like, "Hey, just give Aaron's bike the same treatment you give Charlie's. Kind of be both of their mechanics, be Aaron's mechanic, go through, just check his tire pressure every run. Help him out." Like I was like, "Yep, that's kind of what I'm here for. No problem." And super fun weekend of racing. Charlie won, Aaron won. It was great, and drove back home with him. Got to his house where my truck was parked, and invited me in. And it was like we got back super late Sunday night from Vegas, and it's like 9, 10 o'clock at night, and I was getting ready to head out. And he goes, "Hey, would you be interested in being my mechanic this year on the World Cups?" And I don't think I even let him finish the sentence before I was like, "Yep, I'm in, dude." And so the funny part about that story is like the year prior when I was working at the bike shop, I was like kind of at a crossroads. I was going to school full time, like at night. So I'd work all day and then I'd go to school from 6 to 10 p.m. So I'd work at the bike shop till
Man,
5, and then I'd go to class from 6 to 10 every night, and then working 6 days a week in the bike shop, or 5 days. I'd have like a weekday off and sometimes a Sunday or something like that every once in a while.
that's a hectic schedule.
It was hectic, dude. It was brutal. But I was kind of at that point, and I was working with another buddy of mine, John Hornbeck, he's a road racer in the road for Hoggins Berman in the U.S., like pretty high level. But him and I were working in there together, and we were both sitting in the back one day going, "You really want to do this like forever, like work in a bike shop?" Like, and I was like, "No, man, I don't." But it's what I got right now, and I'm in school full time, and it works. And so I was just doing it. And he goes, "If you could do anything, like like dream job right now, gun to your head, what would you want to do?" I was like, "Dude, it'd be awesome to be a World Cup mechanic, like something I'd really love to do." And he goes, "Why don't you go work for Aaron Gwin or something?" And I was like, "Dude, you kidding me?" I was like, he has JC, like that's Sam Hill's mechanic. Like
Yeah,
there's nobody better than him. And still to this day, like I hold JC up here, like he's one of the best.
is a
And
legend for sure.
yeah, complete legend. And I was like, he's got him. There's no way that relationship's going anywhere anytime soon. And I was like, and even if the off chance it did, like there's 1,000 dudes in line that have better qualifications, better connections than I do. No way it would ever happen. We just kind of laughed it off, and it was exactly about a year later, and I was Aaron's mechanic. And I was
That's
just like,
crazy.
this is
From the bike
crazy.
store.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much. And so as soon as he asked me to be his mechanic, I let work know, gave them like a good 30-day notice or something like that. And then I was right at the point where, in the U.S., in the military, they pay for your college after you get out. It's called the GI Bill. And my GI Bill had just ran out, but I wasn't done with school yet. I probably had about a year and a half, 2 years left, something like that. I was like halfway done. And so I was right in the middle of the process of like applying for student loans and grants and stuff like that to finish it out. So I canceled all that, pulled all the applications back, and called my mom, told her I was dropping out of school, which I had done a few times, and she had talked me out of, like talked me off the
You're like,
ledge. I was
you're
over
like
at
this
A in
time it's for
school.
real.
Yeah, and I told her why, and then that I'd gotten this job, and she goes, "Oh, well, you can go back to school anytime. Like for sure, go and do this." And so, yeah, put my notice in at work, pulled everything out of school, and I think we still joke about it, Aaron and I, every now and then, of like the turnaround from him asking me to be his mechanic to that first race that year, which was 2014, was in South Africa, was like 3 weeks. Like it was like
Yeah.
turn that team around. I think the next week I had a call with Jeff Rogers at Specialized, who he's still there. Called me, did an interview over the phone basically, and he said, "Well, you're the first guy Specialized has ever hired over the phone, having never met, but you come at the recommendation of Rich Hausman, Eric Carter, and Aaron Gwin. So I find it hard to say no to you. Um, I will send you flight details on Monday, and we'll fly you up here for team camp and get your contract signed and do all that kind of stuff. So we'll see you next week." And that was it. I think we went up there to Specialized, did a week long team camp, built a bunch of wheels, built bikes, did the whole deal, got everything ready, and then took a week or a few days of chill time, and then loaded everything up and flew to South Africa, and just blind as a bat. I mean,
Was
ignorance was bliss. I look back on it now and I go, thank God I didn't know what I know now about doing World Cups. I was just winging it. So,
Yeah.
but it worked out.
South Africa, the going to Peter Maritzburg is a wild place to just wing it to as well on short
Dude,
notice. That's
yeah,
that's without a doubt the craziest World Cup I've been to.
100% to this day. I think I kind of like, I don't know, maybe I downplayed or something like that, or maybe I'm just still oblivious to it. But yeah, that was 2014, which to me doesn't seem that long ago, but we didn't have, like, your cell phone didn't work when you left the country. So
No, dude, it was
no cell
crazy.
phone. We had no GPS, full on printed off MapQuest
Yeah,
directions,
I was
and had
just that was
them.
on the tip of my tongue. We used to
Yep.
print off. Would go to Europe and would be just have this map quest and hope that it's right.
Hope that it's right. And you're just following like turn by turn directions, hoping that it's in the same language.
Yeah,
And yeah, that was a crazy experience. Like, never rented a car, never been to Europe or outside of the US besides my deployments, and which everything's done for you there. You're just along for the ride. So yeah, I had to rent a van. We had bike boxes full of tires and wheels and bikes and trainers and bike stands and everything you need, because it's not really a supported World Cup. You don't have your
no,
truck and trailer there. And yeah, flew in, met up with John Canepa, and he'd been on the circuit and been to a few World Cups with EC. So I had his guidance, but driving on the wrong side of the car, wrong side of the road, hitting the tolls outside the airport, didn't know we needed the rand, and trying to bribe them with American dollars and convince them that it's like, I think the toll was like 5 or 10 rand, which is like pennies. And I'm
yeah,
trying to give them a $5 bill and convince them that this is like 5,000 times more than
it's
you're
worth a
supposed to
lot.
get. Like, and yeah, it took us a while to get to the hotel. I'll tell you that's a story in and of itself. But yeah, South Africa was crazy.
I just
That is
remember
a
the place we stayed at there in 2009, and I don't know if you know Ryan Kondrashov. He was my teammate at the time, and funnily enough, we were on intense at that point. We were on like an intense supported X Fusion World Cup team, and we were staying at this Airbnb, and we're like, where can we go get food? And the guy was like, okay, go down this road when you get to the robots. And we're like, what the fuck is he talking about? The robots? We just expect to see like some sculpture of robots or something. He's like, make it right. And he's like, go to the next robots. And then we're like, okay, must be talking about traffic lights. And he's like, you'll get to, there's like these places here. Don't go anywhere else. Don't go past them. Don't go anywhere. Go here, eat your food, come back. And
Yep.
we're like, oh, okay. And he's like, no, I'm not joking. Like, we're like,
Yep.
okay, we are out of our depth here.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, we got into, it wasn't that bad, but we got lost on our way back to the hotel one day. And it was me and Sniper in the van. And we ended up in some little like town square type deal. But I think there's a university, or maybe it's just a regular school had just gotten out, and it just flooded with people to where like you couldn't, like, the van was surrounded and everybody's just like staring at you, and it was like not the friendliest stares, not
Mm,
threatening, but like we were like, I don't think we're supposed to be here right now. Like, this isn't good. And yeah, same thing. Told the people at the hotel when we got back, and they're like, "You were where? And you did what?" Like, okay, don't do that. Like, don't be in this area around this time. Don't go out past this time. Just to and from. Like, and don't go anywhere else. Like, it was wild. But I did. It was a super fun experience. It was an
mm.
awesome country. I still loved it. I'd love to go back one day still.
Yeah, for sure. But you guys, you started off with a win there. That was
Yep.
straight to the top for you. You're like, man,
Yeah.
this is easy.
Oh, dude, totally. Like, 100%. That was my mindset. I was. The other mechanics were laughing at me, dude, and it literally just complete ignorance to what had just happened. Um, and when we had won, I was in the shuttle van on the way back down, and it was actually, I think it was Nico's mechanic on Scott at the time, call him Big Ben, and he was in the back of the van and he had a radio. And I remember he radioed back and he said, how far behind Gwin, some along the lines of like, how far behind Gwin was Nico or something like that. And I was like, oh, like how'd Nico do? And he told me. And I was like, do you know how Aaron did? And he just like looked at me. And I was like, what? And he goes, he won. And I was like, oh. And like I was like turned around, like talking to him. And I was like, oh, thanks. And just like turned back. And like everybody's like, dude, congrats, congrats. I was like, for what? Like, I didn't win. He goes, no,
Yeah.
dude, like, you won. And I'm like, Aaron won. And the sniper was like, he literally looked at me and he goes, you have no idea what just happened, do you? And I was like, I mean, Aaron won. I'm stoked. Like, heck yeah, high five. Like, happy for him. Like, and in my mind, but I was like, this is what Aaron Gwin does. Like,
Yeah.
duh. Like, that's,
He'd been on some serious winning streaks prior to that
yeah.
with Trek.
So for me, I was like, cool. He does what he does. And that was that. Like, great job. Stoked. Like, now what's next? And Sniper was like, what's next? He's like, next we get back and we freaking get our asses to the podium. He's like, this is sick. And I was like, okay. And then like met up with EC and stuff. And he was like over the moon, pumped. I was like, dude, like calm down. Like, let's act like we've been here before. Like in my mind, you know, and just try not to be a like overly excited about it.
Yeah.
And then as the year went on, I think every race I was like, it was more and more realization. It's like that win, I think, took the entire season to set in for me, because every race, and I was like, oh, this doesn't happen easily. Like this is super hard to win these races, and like there are so many things that have to go right. I was just completely oblivious to all of it. I had no freaking clue how it worked. I had no idea. Like I stay in the pits, and when he comes in and he asks me to do something, I do that, and then he leaves, and then we just do that until race day.
Yeah.
And then I stand there and I send him off on his race run, and I gather everything up and I go back to the pits. And then as you know the career went on and the years went on, and that season I was like, dang, okay, yeah, if you win, you friggin' celebrate. Like
Yeah.
that's hard.
Yeah.
fought.
I mean, it was a whole nother year after that till the first round of the next season before he won again, wasn't it? So
Yep.
it's like
Yep.
you're thinking this is going to be just your regular for the season, but that was a tough year.
Yeah, exactly. So my thing too was like I wanted the number plate from every race as like my kind of like my little memento.
Yeah.
In that first race in South Africa, he was number 13, and because he had finished 13th in the overall the year prior, and everybody thinks like 13's unlucky number or whatever. And he really likes the number 13 because everybody thinks it's bad luck. So he's like, I'll show you.
That's what I've always thought as well. Hopefully you ran it the right way up. It grinds my gears when people run it upside down.
Yep. Ran it normal, everything,
Good.
and won the
That's
race.
why you won.
And I asked him if I could have it. And he goes, I really want to keep this one. Like, for that reason. I was like, all right, all good. And then he let me keep every number board after that. And I think it was either the off season after that year, or it might have even been the next year, off season or in between races. It was quite a while later, and we were back home and we were hanging out. We went to like a movie or something with some friends, and we were leaving. And I got my truck and I was like pulling out, and he pulled up in his truck and like waved me down. He's like, "Come here." So like I jumped out, went over to his truck, and he lifted up a helmet and he handed it to me. And he goes, I got the number plate from our first win together, but he goes, this is the helmet that I was wearing. And then he had signed it on there, and he wrote first race, first place on there. And so I still have that helmet. And so I don't have every number
That's
board.
a cool memento.
But I have that helmet from that. And so I was like, that's fair trade. I'll take that one.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, when you look at a number board versus a helmet, like that's a pretty sweet memento to end up with.
Yeah, I've got a lot of really cool number plates. I've got leaders jerseys. I've got championship jerseys, and that helmet. But that helmet's a special one because that was the first one.
Was that the season? I remember there was a season, and I reckon it probably was that one where he really struggled on the demo when it was like kind of had the single-sided seat tube, I guess you would say. There was a bunch. I remember there was like a bunch of stuff going on where I think he was trying to stiffen up the frame and things like that.
I want to say that was the
Or maybe that
following
was
year.
the
I think
first.
that was
Okay.
2015. That year, 2014, Specialized was actively marketing like against 275. And we showed up to that race with, it was actually that South Africa race was on an enduro, an alloy enduro that we
All
had
right.
upstroked the shock, and then to maybe 180 or 190, I can't remember, from Fox, and then put a downhill fork on it. And I think de-stroke the fork to like 190, something like that. It was a full hybrid bike, but it was
Yeah.
275. And it was a struggle to have tires. I think I stole like 4 tires from the tire marketing guy's desk. Um, that
Like I need
he's like,
these. I have a very important
well, he
important
was
job for
like,
these.
no, you can't have them. He goes, these are the only 4 275 tires we have. Like, and I need them for testing. And I was like, well, we need them to go racing. like, and we ended up getting them. And so that's the other thing, man. It's like, I look back on what we went to that race with, dude, like a spare wheel set and like 4 tires
Yeah.
because that's all that existed. And I'm like, if I showed up to a World Cup
Can you
with a
imagine that
spare set of
now?
wheels and 4 tires, I'd be like, please, 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 please get through practice. Like, please take it easy.
Yeah.
But I remember even like from Specialized, they were like, hey, no photographers like anywhere near the pit. And, Aaron had strict instructions, don't let anybody photo the bike. Like it was 275 and they didn't want people to know that they were doing it. And then we had that red and white demo that was a 26-inch, but we had a 275 made, same paint job. So it looked like a 26, or the 26 version, but that bike was 275 as well. And nobody knew. We flew that thing under the radar for
Yeah.
most of the season. I think a photographer got like a sneaky pic of one of his tires when he was like looking at a line and laid his bike down next to the track. And it kind of started leaking out a little bit around then, but that was it.
Yeah.
And then the following year was 2015 when we switched to the carbon, like single sided one.
That's right. Yeah.
Um, and that's where we ran into, I wouldn't say we ran into issues, but it was like a, what I know now is like a compliance issue. And from what I remember, I don't want to misspeak, but from what I remember was like the stiffness numbers got flip flopped from the front to the rear triangle.
Uh,
So the front triangle was like too stiff and the rear was too compliant. And the bike was super fast, but it was pretty unpredictable and like hard to hang on to when you got it up to those speeds. And you just really didn't know what it was going to do. You'd plow into some holes and it might keep going straight and it might shoot you off the track. And like fucking, there's a roll of the dice
yeah.
every lap. But we had figured that out. And Specialized worked super, super hard on that. And started doing like some hand molding. Everybody's like, that frame's ugly as hell. And it was like, well, there's like some hand laid carbon on that thing to like change the compliance and the stiffness. And we had a different link to fix it and did a ton of testing with it and showed up to Lords and won on it. So I think we did. That was
It
like
worked
our,
because he won that season. So
yeah, yep, won that too. And
came through.
we had a thing going there for a while where we called it first race, first place. So the first 3 years that I wrenched for him, we won the first round every time. And it was
It's a
South
good
Africa
way
and
to
then
start the
Lords.
season.
Yep, Lords twice in a row.
That's yeah, it was some very I don't know, maybe it's just the nostalgia in me, but there was some great years of racing through that whole period of the 26 to 27.5, and then before long 29 was in, and
Yep,
yeah, I don't know. These days it's all just shaker weights and 4 bar bikes.
yep,
It's
exactly.
it's cool to see some new stuff like the the gearboxes and that making news in the last couple of years. So nice to see some cool new things popping up anyway.
Yeah, I
Um,
haven't even really thought about that, but yeah, you're right. I mean, we pretty much. I came in right at the end of 2.6, and then did the whole full 2.75 thing, and then we did the full 2.9 thing, and then mullet. Like,
I remember JD Swingen turning up to a Pro GRT race in 2010 on a 951 that Jeff had modified to be 29er, and everyone is just like,
yep,
what the hell is this thing? This is a monstrosity. What are you doing? Like, this isn't downhill racing. And lo and behold, he was just, you know, 10 years ahead of his time.
head of the time, head of the curve for sure. Yeah, Jeff has some cool stories about that. They struggled. They had to run cross country tires,
Yeah.
cross country wheels, and then the Dorado fork to
Mm,
make it work. But yeah, they were on it pretty early.
yeah. Yeah. That was, I remember that thing. It was a blue frame. I remember vividly. It was, yeah, it just looked so out of place in a
Yeah,
world of 26-inch bikes. You know, we didn't think anything would ever change.
yeah, and I mean to that point, kind of doing the same thing with gearboxes.
Mm,
Like kind of started that, and we weren't the first ones. With like, I mean, Nikolai and Gamex and those guys all have been playing with it for a couple of years, but
don't
I
forget the local
remember,
heroes, Zeroed, you know, built
yep,
their name
Zero,
around it.
yep, can't forget about those guys. They've been on the game for a little while too. Um, yeah, but I remember it was, I think it was around like 2015 where I first started, kind of had the idea and talked to a few people about it, but it was never more than like a conversation and kind of laugh it off a little bit. And um, I remember specifically it was 2016, year one on YT, and we were at it was like a company ride day event thing that they put on in Forsheim, Germany, at the little bike park that they had there. But all the engineers came out and everything, and it was just ride, ride with everybody, t-shirt, laps, and but we did have a sit down with the whole development and engineering team at YT, because we were working on the next version already, and they were like, well, kind of, what do you have any requests, either from the athlete side as well as the mechanic side? Went through that whole deal. And then at one point they were like, do you guys, does anybody have any, like, no idea too crazy, anything that you think should be done in downhill that isn't, like anything that could be revolutionary, some crazy idea you've ever had? And I remember during that meeting, I raised my hand. I said, a gearbox. And they looked at me and they said, what? And I said, a gearbox on a downhill bike. And they kind of laughed and, like, just same thing, like kind of just like, haha, like, yeah, that'd be funny. And then, like, but okay, but like, what else? And like, conversation moved on. And from that point on, I was like, no, I think that would be really sick. And so every time anybody wanted to talk about it, you couldn't shut me up. To the point where Aaron, like, somebody would bring it up or something like that. And before I could say anything, Aaron would literally go, here we go. Shouldn't have said that. Like, and we'll just have to walk away because he had heard it like a million times from me. And so Nico was always really interested in it. Nico and I had a lot of really cool conversations about it and kind of like how it could work and what the hurdles would be, and kind of what would have to happen for a brand to really, like, dip their toes into it. And then we got on intense, and Jeff had the same conversation as the YT guys. He goes, hey, if you ever want to try something, like, you ever have a crazy idea, like anything, he's like, I'm all about it. Like, we can whip stuff up in the fab shop, like, super easy. So if you ever have anything, like, just let me know, and, like, we'll see if we can make it happen. And I was like, I do, a gearbox downhill bike. And he was the first one that was like, I love that. That sounds super cool. He goes, let's explore it.
It's the perfect place to do it. I mean,
Yep, it
like,
was. It
yeah,
was like a
build
perfect
everything in
storm.
house.
Yep. So that kind of got overshadowed by the rest of the development that we did that eventually led us to the M1, that we released. And then once we got that out, it was like, let's fire this back up. And kind of rest is history. We're still playing with it.
Yeah, it's is it coming through in terms of like the benefits you thought it would have? You know, obviously like the weight placement seems like a good one for me. There's a lot of people adding weight right around that area of the bike, so it's like if you can take that unsprung weight and put it in the center of the bike, like it just feels like it makes sense.
Yeah, that to me is kind of the low hanging fruit of the advantage tree, I
Yeah,
guess, um, and logically makes sense. Um, I honestly don't know if we didn't have the M1 first in its current version. I don't know what process we would have taken to develop a gearbox bike. To be fair, um, because once we finished the M1 and we decided we should play with it again, and like, what are we going to do? And Byron, the engineer at Intense, was like, let's just see if it'll fit on the M1 as is. Like, and if we have to move any pivots or anything, like, we're going to have to kick this project down the road because we've got other stuff to do. But he goes, if it can fit, like, and we can just cut it out and weld a cradle in and not have to move anything around, like, we should try.
mm.
And it, he's super fast and talented on CAD and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like it was about 20 minutes later, and he like poked his head from upstairs and was like, it'll work. And so that's kind of how it started. Um, and so it just so happened to line up and work that we could basically cut out the bottom section and the bottom bracket and that whole area and put a cradle in and fit a gearbox in there without changing any of the other kinematics or the pivot points. So
Yeah,
I also feel like that was kind of an advantage for us in terms of like, what are the advantages and disadvantages? Because now we had the regular M1 and a gearbox M1, everything else equal. Like, we didn't have to do a different suspension design. We didn't have to move a pivot. And so we were truly able to do like an apples to apples comparison, with the gearbox being the only difference. Um, and so, or the only variable, I should say. And so I built up two completely identical bikes, same suspension, same brakes, wheels, tires, everything, so that the only variable was the gearbox. And it was super, super interesting and not, because I was real used to the M1 and how that felt, which again, I think just kind of helped distinguish the differences better. And I think I only had to do like a couple laps on the regular M1 to get warmed up, kind of remind myself how it felt. Jumped on the gearbox and like 100 yards in the track. And I was like, whoa, like, I don't know what's different, but it's just different. Like, it was very similar, very
yeah,
comfortable, right at home right away. But I was like, there's something different. And the first thing I realized was just not only the unsprung mass being lowered and your center of gravity is lower and all that kind of stuff, but I didn't realize how moving that weight off the rear end would affect your suspension so much. I was like, it's just a derailleur and chain and cassette. Like, yes, it's X amount of grams or whatever, but it felt like my rear wheel was like going at the rate of a machine gun. I was like, dude, I had to go back and like double check the two shock settings. And I was like, are they the same? Are these two different shocks? And they were exactly the same. But that shock on the gearbox bike, like, I had to slow the rebound down because it was just like way, way, way too fast.
yeah.
There wasn't that weight to like hold it down and control it.
Interesting. Have you tried
And
running it with any like data acquisition between the two bikes to see anything
I
really
did
different shows up?
initially, but to be honest with you, I cannot remember what findings I found at the time.
Yeah,
If I remember right, it was exactly what I just felt by seat of the
yeah,
pants. Like, you could see the frequency of the rebound was so much higher. And so that was the first thing. I was like, okay, well, suspension tuning is going to be pretty important on this because of the weight and where it's at. And then once we got that dialed in, it was pretty easy to get it comfortable and going fast. It does ride differently, where you're kind of like where you ride in the bike changes a little bit. So it's like a culmination of a bunch of little things, kind of death by 1,000 paper cuts type deal that make like overall. And to be fair, I don't think any of us have it completely figured out yet. I think there's going to be stuff that we realize And even as like the gearbox technology begins to advance, we're going to realize more and more advantages and potentially disadvantages as well. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. Um, and one specific thing, just from like a development standpoint, is when you're designing a bike and configuring your kinematics, and you're doing it in linkage with a traditional drivetrain, you're setting your front rear gear ratios, right? So it's like
Mm.
34 to front and your whatever 16, 14 to your
Yeah.
rear cock. And in those gear ratios, here's my anti squat, here's my anti rise, here's my leverage ratio, here's all my kinematics. But as you shift through your cassette, like your kinematics are technically changing. Um, Whether you can feel it or not, it's going to way too many other factors in there to determine that. But the advantage with a gearbox is you have a set exterior gear. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what gear you're in, your kinematics aren't changing. So you're gaining a level of consistency um, in terms of like suspension tuning, your adjustments, all that kind of stuff. So you're almost like eliminating one variable. It's a small variable, but at that level, like it matters, and those guys can feel it.
Yeah. And I mean, like, there seems definitely, like I said, there seems to be advantages and disadvantages, but I feel like, personally, to my opinion, one of the biggest holdups is going to be the big players, the SRAMs, the Shimano's, their race teams. You know, if some other manufacturer comes in who has a heavy amount of support from SRAM or Shimano and
Yeah,
says, "We want to do this," those brands are going to say, "No,
yeah,
you're not taking our drivetrain off your bike to put this gearbox in. You know, like, you do that, that's fine, but you're not getting suspension, you're not getting brakes, you're not getting any of this, and
yep,
here's our budget gone." So I feel
yeah,
like that, it takes someone like you guys who has this team that can run through this whole system without the need for that support to be able to do it. So
yep. It's and it takes that also to get the big players to jump in the game as well.
mm.
There's eventually going to be enough pressure and request from consumers, from brands, from teams. It
from
honestly starts
from
with the team.
races,
Yeah, it
when
starts
it's
there.
coming down to hundredths of a second winning a World Cup, everyone's looking for marginal gains.
Yep,
Like, I'm sure
100%.
it
So
won't be long before someone else turns up. Bruni turns up to Specialized and goes, "Hey, we need to try this."
yep, 100%. And honestly, I mean, I feel like Specialized or Laurent's program with Bruni would probably be one of the big players that could do it.
They're in the right
Um,
position. They don't have a drivetrain sponsor. They have
yep,
Brembo as a brake sponsor. They could,
yep,
Specialized as the behemoth that they are, can rapid prototype and put stuff together. Like, they could
yeah,
they could
they
definitely
could.
do it.
And I mean, I don't know for a fact, but I know that program. And if they're not, I'd be more surprised if they're not messing with one or playing with one back at HQ.
Yeah, I
Um,
bet Brad's riding one. I bet they've got one tucked away somewhere.
yeah, yeah. I won't speak for him, but I can almost
No.
guarantee it. You know, um, but also like I've talked to guys at SRAM, and I'd be like, I've got some buddies over there. I'm like, I won't say anything. Like, just let me know. And if you are, just know I'll get Jeff to whip one up, whatever your mounting interface is. We'll sign an NDA
Yeah.
and we'll whip one up. If you need a bike to put it on, like just let me know. And they just laugh and they're like, nothing yet.
Yeah.
But that's not to say like some of the whatever the top head engineers at SRAM or in Germany aren't working on something. Um,
Mhm.
which if they are, cool, and if they're not, cool. It's I don't think it's going to be the death of a standard drivetrain. And I'll be the first one to tell you, it's a small market. I really only think currently, I might ruffle some feathers with this one, but screw it. But like, I don't see the advantage on a trail bike right now. Like
No, I
the,
agree.
the, the gearbox technology isn't there on the efficiency front or like the advantages for a trail bike, enduro bike, whatever. Well, I'll just say trail bike, pedal bike.
Yeah.
I don't think it's there yet. Will it get there one day? Maybe. I'm not interested in it. But downhill, it makes so much sense. But that's such a small market. So it's
Yeah.
really difficult for brands to jump into it. So I understand it. And I would understand if SRAM, Shimano, whatever, TRP, big players don't want to do one. Like, I 100% get it. There's nothing wrong, I don't think, with the current standard drivetrain. It's not bad. It's pretty damn good. And it works really well. And our domestic team runs full standard drivetrain from SRAM and RockShox, and it's fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
bike performs. And I think even our World Cup team proved it too. We've only got a couple riders on it, and Wanfer was on a standard M1, qualified first.
Yeah.
Like, it's still pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like,
It's not revolutionizing, I guess,
yeah,
to a
it's
certain
just an
extent. Yeah.
option. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, and yeah, that bike was a standard drivetrain, still outperformed everything else that day. So it's not like a night and day difference, but there are like little cool, intricate details that are super interesting and fun to play with.
Yeah. I can imagine. Like from that side, I think that'd be super cool to be able to just mess
Yeah.
around, be able to change little things, try it. That's
Yep.
super cool on that side. I love the
I'm
tinkering side.
I'm not going to oust any names, but I've had multiple people from some brands, some from some teams, from athlete to managers to staff that are like, if whenever I post something about it or something like that on my stories, they're like, dude, I want one. I want to try
Yeah.
one. And I'm like, you and everybody else, dude. Like, I'll let you ride mine, but
Yeah.
that's about all that's available right now.
We'll add your name to the list of people that wants to try it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right before we go, I want to get you. I meant to message you and prepare you for this, but let's have your wildest travel story from the World Cup days, or funniest, something good that pops to mind.
Dude.
And I'm sure there's a ton of them as well.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I 100% have forgotten more than I remember. I don't know. It's tough because the early days, like, there were definitely some wild travel stories, but I just didn't know it at the time.
Yeah,
Like I said, I was completely just oblivious to it. All the standard stuff: flights missed, canceled, um, stuff not showing up, but toolboxes not showing up
no,
for
that'd
like
be
the entirety of a race.
an
Prototype race
absolute
bike.
disaster as a
Yep.
mechanic.
Prototype race bikes not showing up, like one of ones, and not having extras. Um, gosh, I just had one, like, when I was telling the South Africa story. One that popped in my head. I was like, oh, I should tell that. Um, that whole trip, really. Um, ooh, I got a good one. South Africa, and gosh, I think the statute of limitations have passed on
Yeah,
this.
sure. That's over 10 years ago. Sure, it's
Yeah, it's
fine.
over 10 years. So it was qualifying day, South Africa, and Aaron qualified first. But so, kind of have to set the stage. You'll know a little bit, but the uplift system in South Africa, there's no chairlift. And
Yeah.
so there are these white vans with trailers on that all the bikes go on. Everybody piles in the white van. You drive through the town a little ways, you get on this freeway, for lack of better words, for a little while, get off on that, and then you go through like this, if I remember right, like a private residence, big
Yeah.
like iron rod gates open up with guards, and that's kind of your last one. And then you get up short couple miles later and you're at the top of the hill. So we go up for qualifying, we get up there, do the whole deal, go through, riders down, and mechanics start packing all their stuff up, and the shuttle rigs are supposed to be there waiting for us. And there was, I think, two or three, and we were one of the last ones to go. And it was me, Marshy, Dougie Fresh, and a handful of other mechanics. And the other two vans and trailers fill up and pull off. And our guy, we were on the last one, and our guy jumps out and says something. We don't understand him, and he starts like walking off kind of towards the start hut or something like that. And we're like, oh, maybe he's going down there. He'll be right back or something. So we all load up, get in the van, and we're waiting. We're just in there, sitting there waiting. I don't know how much time had passed, quite a while, but we were like, dude, where is this guy? Like, it's getting dark, and as you know, like, dude, like, nothing good happens when it gets dark there,
Mm.
and we're like kind of in the middle of nowhere, little sketched out, and Marshy starts getting a little bit upset, we'll say, a little worried for everybody and safety and stuff like that. He's heard the stories. He's been there a couple times already. So he goes, dude, this guy's gone. He left us. Like, we have no way of getting back down. Like, radios aren't working to the teams. We're too far away, and there's a whole forest between us. And he goes, he left the keys. He goes, I think we just drive back down.
This sounds so on brand for Marshy. This is
Very,
great.
yeah. If anybody knows Marshy, hopefully he doesn't mind me telling the story. But
Nah, he'll love it.
um, and so the gist of it was, he goes, keys are in it, and he goes, we'll just drive back. We'll just drive ourselves back because we don't know where this guy is. We're worried for our safety, and screw it. Like, screw this guy. Like, we're out of here. He abandoned us. So Marcy jumps in the driver's seat, flip a bitch, and make our way back down to the freaking drop off area. And the whole time, a couple of the guys are like, dude, we're watching mirrors. We're waiting for police to come, like, pull us over. We're going to be in a high speed chase. Like, get us back and get us out of here. And we're getting back, and we get back down and kind of working our way through the neighborhood. And a house fire had literally just started. No police, no fire trucks, no nothing. Flames bellowing out the windows, like crazy big house fire. And Dougie, you have to know Dougie Fresh too, Doug Hatfield from Santa Cruz. And he goes, Marshy, pull over. And he goes, Doug, for what? Like, we need to abandon this van and get out of here. He goes, there's a house on fire. I want to take pictures. And Doug carries this little digital camera
Yeah.
everywhere he goes. He doesn't take pictures with his phone. It's his digital camera. And he has all photos from all the years. If we could ever get a hold of that camera, we'll have some gems on there. And so Marshy appeases him. He pulls over to the curb, house barreling flames on fire. Doug slides the door open, gets out, casual as could be. Takes a couple photos like a tourist.
He doesn't do stressful.
He does not do stress. Walks around the corner, wants to get a different angle. He's shooting from the side. And finally, Marshy's like, Doug, get your fucking ass in here. He's like, we got to go. He's like, okay. So Dougie jumps in and closes the door, and we peel off up and we park. And Marshy's like, everybody get your shit. Pretend like nothing happened. Get it. Get back in the pits. Don't say anything. So we do. I hear later rumblings of somebody's probably not, something happened. Like, did you guys hear somebody stole a shuttle van? I was like, oh, don't know what you're talking about. Like, didn't happen to us.
It wasn't us.
And we showed up. Nothing ever came of it that weekend. It wasn't until we got to Leo Gang that year. And I don't remember if that was round 2 or 3 or 4, but we were in Leo Gang. And Marshy comes up to me, and I'm working. And he comes up to the pit. He goes, hey, John, how's it going? I was like, hey, what's up, Marshy? We're just shooting shit. He goes, hey, anybody come by here and chat with you? I was like, about what? What are you talking about? And he goes, okay. Nobody from the UCI. I was like, no. Like, why would anybody from the UCI come by here? He goes, oh, no reason. You remember South Africa? I said, yeah. He goes, you remember when we were abandoned at the top? We were like fearing for our lives? I said, yeah. He goes, you were scared for your life, right? I was like, kind of suggestive. And I said, yeah, pretty scary. He goes, okay, cool. If anybody comes by from the UCI and they ask you any questions about us making our way back to the pits safely, that's what happened, right? And I said, yeah, of course, no problem. And I think they did end up getting in trouble. Nothing crazy. I think the UCI fined them like 1,500 Swiss francs or something like that for the whole incident. But decided to drop.
Any explanation of where the driver had gone or what had happened?
No, I never heard. No idea. He might have walked off to like take a piss or something like that and came back. somebody stole his whole rig.
I'm gonna have to remember this one because I really want to do one of these with Marshy. So I'll have to remember
Get
this
Marshy
story
on there.
for
I would love to hear his version of it because now it's what is
yeah,
it 2025? It's been 11. What is
yeah.
it? Yeah, 11, 12 years now since it's happened, and that's my version of it. That's how I
Oh,
remember it.
fantastic.
But yeah, God, I would love to hear Marshy tell that story again.
Well, we'll get that out of him.
Yeah,
That's brilliant, and what a way to wrap it up. That's the kind of stuff that you just you know these podcasts are gems for getting that sort of stuff out because you just don't hear about it. It's so good.
yeah, you never do.
Well, hey, I reckon we need to do another one of these at some point. There's a couple of other US guys that I would love to get you all on for a bit of a roundtable. We can talk about some pro downhill series. We'll do a bit of that or something at some point. But it's been
Anytime.
fantastic. It's been so good to talk downhill with you today.
Heck yeah, man. Anytime. Name the date and time, and I'll be there.
Absolutely, we'll have to do it again. Well, thanks again for your time, and looking forward to seeing some more stuff come out of Intense that you're, getting your hands dirty with. It's been cool to see.
Yep. We've got some stuff coming here over the course of the next few months. So those of you paying attention, stay tuned.
Nice. We'll look forward to it. Alrighty, cheers, John.
Cheers.